Well, hey, welcome back. It's Dr. Simeon Hein with you again. This is video 3 in our little mini virtual viewing seminar here. And in this third video, I want to describe to you how we connect with the resonance of the target that we're viewing. And this is the really interesting part. So you want to pay attention to this. Usually, when we think about connecting with information, we think about it in a very kind of left-brained, analytical, rational way, as if we're getting information from, anything we're thinking about in a logical, linear way. Well, the resonant virtual viewing process doesn't actually work like that. It's actually much more holistic, it's not sequential, it's non-linear, and it's spontaneous. So the information comes to you kind of like in thought balls. And you basically, we call it a gestalt, it just kind of comes all at once, and then you kind of work to write it all down. So in contrast to this kind of linear, kind of functional way we've been taught to look at things in a certain perspective, a certain functional kind of mechanistic way, the viewing process, because it works through the right brain, is much more nonlinear, and it's much more contextual and holistic. And so we need to kind of create another process to actually write down that information. Thank you, whiteboard. So when we're actually viewing a target, we could think of it kind of like this. Let's say we have a target out here somewhere, and let's say we have this kind of like red tree. I don't know where we'd find it, so we have this red tree. And then on the other side, you have the good old viewer, you and me. Here we are. How does the information come from the tree to the viewer, or the other way around? Well, it works through this process that we call resonance, because every object, just like every radio station, everything that emits energy, creates an energy wave that is at some point, it is at some level detectable by you and me. And what we want to do actually is to kind of create a mutual resonance between the viewer and the target, so that the information spontaneously exchanges, very much like between a radio receiver and a transmitter somewhere, or you could even think of your cell phone, any sort of radio process. The signals are all around us all the time, right? But we only perceive the ones that we're tuned to. So we perceive through our 5 physical senses and whatever other senses we have to the frequencies of sound and light and taste and smell. And in the viewing process, we're perceiving other frequencies because we're deliberately tuning ourselves to those other objects, people, places, events, and so forth. So if you have 2 tuning forks, and you're probably aware of this, and you hit one over here, the other one, if it's tuned to the same frequency, will spontaneously begin to resonate. Bing! And that's because they're at the same frequency. So things that are at the same frequency resonate together. And so using our subconscious mind, kind of like a TV tuner, we're tuning into the different frequencies of objects, people, places, and events out there. And the information, because it already exists in the quantum space-time matrix, the information, and however else you want to think about it, that's just one model that we can use. The information is out there holographically, and we're tuning our subconscious minds to perceive that information and our bodies at the same time. Now, this is all a subconscious process, so you actually don't see anything happening, but you do experience the information kind of coming across from wherever it's coming, and it comes down when you write it down onto your little piece of paper. And that is how we kind of tune in to the process. As we saw in the last video, we're tuning our subconscious minds into these distant objects, people, places, and so forth through our autonomic nervous system. And because every object and person and place, anything that exists in the universe, has its own specific frequency, the subconscious mind can tune into the frequencies of those particular things. And if you get the frequency just right, and again, it's not something you can actually see it happening because it's internal to us. But when the subconscious mind is tuned correctly, then the information flows spontaneously. So this is really why I don't refer to it as remote viewing, because the signal isn't really remote. The signal is right next to us all the time, and we're just tuning into it with our bodies and minds, using our whole systems that we have here, our living systems, as tuning mechanisms. We're already tuned into a particular reality anyway. What we're doing in the viewing process is just consciously deciding to change the frequency a little bit and view something that is not in our immediate area through our 5 physical senses. Now, our 5 physical senses are pretty loud, the signals that come through our optic nerves and our auditory system and so forth. And the viewing signal, by contrast, is much more subtle, as we've said before. So you need to kind of write the information down pretty quickly as it comes across through this kind of tuning process, because while you're able to pick up the signal line, the information will flow onto your page. And then, as it will usually happen, the signal line will eventually break off because it may not be as relevant to you as what's going on around you or whatever. So the signal line will eventually break off. But for a while, you'll have contact with the target, and it'll create a lot of interesting information that comes across that you can write down and later verify through the feedback process, which we'll talk about in a moment. You can verify that the information was correct. So that is a little bit about how we kind of make contact with the signal line and the non-local target. And it's because everything has its own resonance. The resonance is not really far away from us. It's actually right here in the form of energy waves, just like all the other types of energy that we can visually see around us. And we're simply picking up on that information because it's right here already. It's not really remote. It's more a kind of resonant tuning process, kind of like we've become these kind of intergalactic holographic radios, if you will, for a few minutes, tuned the information in, got the information coming through us, writing it down, kind of like a crystal with no interference, just perceiving the information as clearly and cleanly as possible, writing it down with no interference as much as possible. And then we have information, then we get the feedback at the end to see if we're right or wrong or how well we did. So anyway, that is how we actually connect to the target. And in the next video, we'll actually go into a little more detail about how that works. Okay? We'll see you in the next video.